don't mean anything, but thanks for listening. Yeah. Hello, everybody. Welcome to We Say Things, episode 19. My name is SUNSfan, joined by Sinner. This podcast, of course, is sponsored by our friends at Fractal Design. Thank you, friends, for being our only sponsor. You're awesome. Cinder, how are you?
I'm good. I woke up. I was in bed for a bit. I read a bit about puppies because we're planning on having a dog.
Oh,
and
what
I'm
kind?
learning. What's the full name for it again? Nova Scotian duck tolling retriever. I don't know if you know them. They're called tollers in daily speech.
Are they cute?
Cool. Yes, they're very cute, and they're intelligent, and they're very pretty, and they're a good family dog. So perfect.
You know,
because we don't go hunting.
I would love... What is it about people getting dogs that fit their personality? You want an intelligent dog. Slacks has a goddamn idiotic pug. Like, does that just fit his personality?
Here's the thing. That's not about fitting your personality. That was literally the only dog that Slacks could get where he could feel smart. So it's by comparison. You get one
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you guys don't already know, of course, this podcast... you can find all the audio stuff on sunsfan.gg/podcast. We're going to do it live every week, Tuesdays, 2 a.m. PST/11 a.m. CEST. And it is on Spotify and Apple, whatever they call it, and Google Podcasts, Cinderin.
And
have
other
a review.
Cats.
That's true. We have a review. Why don't you read it? Only one review
read
this
out
time.
The review?
Yeah.
All right, this one is from Bees Two Knees. I would rate 6 stars, but I would rate this podcast 6 stars if you had Bulldog on as a guest. A TI winner could really heighten the level of conversation. It could change the level of conversation.
What are you trying to say?
Thank you very much for your review.
What are you trying to say, Cinderin?
I don't know. Do I need to say it?
This isn't confirmed, so I don't want to get anybody excited. We may have a guest next week.
Oh,
and
thanks for telling me.
We're very picky on the guests. So I'm hoping that
actually, I do. You have told me. Never mind.
I have told you. Don't lie to everyone. If it goes through, I think everyone's going to be very happy. It should be... I'm not even sure what kind of format we're going to do, so we're going to have to talk about it at some point. I kind of want to do like a little bit of what we do already, but mostly it's interviewing them almost. Like I want to hear about their whole life. That's what I want to do personally, but I don't know if people are interested or not. But anyway... cool little factoid. Like I said, this podcast is available on Spotify, and we've actually, Cinderin, cracked the top 100 list for games in the U.S. for podcasts on Spotify. What do you think about that? That's amazing.
That is amazing. Absolutely. You said something about the last episode also being in like the top 20 in Denmark?
Yes. That's correct.
Look Denmark at us. Go us.
Denmark has like 30 podcasts, so we're doing very well.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing about average.
Let's just keep touching ourselves.
Good. I could do that all day. So just a quick reminder before we get started, because we do get comments about this from time to time, Cinderin, and I know that this is the minority of people, most likely, unless everyone's just not speaking up. This podcast, again, need to reiterate, is not strictly a Dota podcast. Dota is the emphasis, but we will always be talking about other stuff that's related to esports in general or video games. It may be Valve related, it may not. That's just how it is. Like this episode, for example, there's a good portion of it that will not be Dota 2. Just saying. So, moving on. Cinderin.
Yes.
I wasn't going to talk about this story, but it has already been released. So I'm just going to talk about it. Would you like to hear the black story from Jungle Jam by any chance?
I mean, I've heard it already, but it could get another...
Cinderin,
I can do it one more time.
Why are you doing
I've never heard this story before. Please tell me.
2 things. First of all, you shouldn't... Why the fuck are you eating on stream? On this podcast. You know, people listen. They don't like to hear people eating, right?
They can't hear it.
I can hear it.
Wait, really?
All right, the black story from Jungle Jam. This is... I don't even mean to laugh. I may laugh from time to time when I say this story, and I feel so bad for Black. I just have to say that first and foremost. I love Black. He's a cool guy. the situation is so fucking stupid that you almost have to laugh. That's how I feel about it. So you guys know Black, of course, is a carry player. He's played on a lot of teams, had find some success. I think his most success was on Vici Gaming, I want to say. And that one year, they kept getting like second place a lot of times, and they end up kicking him for, I can't remember who, but they didn't do well.
Can you hear me eating now, by the way?
You're doing fine, Cinder. Thanks for interrupting the story with your useless information.
That's fine. I'm loving
Okay, so Black, if you guys don't already know, is a very active person. I wouldn't say hyperactive, but he's very physical, he's into like working out. He's very healthy, all that stuff. And at the Jungle Jam in Denver, he was invited as a caster. And the entire time, he's just wanting to do physical activities, like, because we had some stuff planned, like tug of war, for example, we had planned. But we ended up scrapping it because we couldn't find a rope. Plus, it could be dangerous. But he wanted to do stuff like that. He was always trying to find people to arm wrestle. So I'm going to tell you the story. I don't know the most entertaining way to say it, so I'm just going to say it in the order in which it happened for me. Okay? So just to give you guys an idea of, there's a little stage area where the talent is located, and then there's an audience area where 50 or so people can sit, and then in the back of the audience area is like some tables that you can eat. Okay? So I end up around that area. It's super late at night. This is the last day. This is the actual grand finals day of TI. And it's like everyone's basically gone to bed from the talent except for me and a couple people. I stayed up all night. Kudos to me, by the way. I'm amazing. I started talking to this kid that was from Kuwait, and he had a Liquid jersey on. So we're talking about Liquid. We were talking about things we have in common with being in the Middle East. He's from Kuwait. Very cool guy. Had a lot of cool conversations with him. He was very excited for Liquid to hopefully win the lower bracket finals, right? This is before that started. So I go back into the break room, and I don't know, I'm doing whatever. And I come back like an hour later, and I don't see him. I don't think anything of it, of course. And I start hearing fans talk. It's like, did you hear what happened? I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, I think Black dislocated his arm or something. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? It's like he was arm wrestling. I think he dislocated his arm. He's in the hospital right now. It's like, what the fuck is going on? It's so weird. So I go talk to Zayori, and he tells me, I have no idea what happens. He just came up to me. His arm it looked like it was dislocated or something. So I got him an Uber or a Lyft or whatever to go, because this is the kind of crazy part. You don't want to call an ambulance unless you really need it, because it's very expensive in the U.S. because the healthcare is garbage.
Woohoo!
Yeah. USA for the win. So he's at the hospital. I'm like, okay, I don't understand what happened. Like, can somebody tell me the story? He's like, well, he was just arm wrestling, and he heard a pop, and he just ended up at the hospital. So find out a little bit later. We look at security camera footage. It doesn't show very much. We just show him coming out of the area with a hurt arm, putting it in some ice and whatnot. And the most ridiculous thing, Cinderin, a couple hours later, the kid from Team Liquid, not from Team Liquid, the Team Liquid fan comes back to the venue and starts talking to me, and he's super depressed, right? He's sitting in the back of the venue. He didn't even watch the lower bracket finals of Liquid playing, even though he's so excited because he was at the hospital the whole time with Black. And I find out that he has a video of what happens, okay, on his phone. So what happened was Black was just interacting with the fans. Obviously, he wants to do all this physical stuff. The whole day he's talking about arm wrestling somebody. So he finds it.
That in itself is funny. Hey, exactly. You guys are Dota fans too with fucking arm wrestling.
So he finds.
Like you can't fuck with me.
I mean, there's a lot of dick measuring going on here for sure. But so apparently he finds this Team Liquid fan. They start talking. The Team Liquid fan is, I wouldn't say he's he's buff in a sense. Like he's ripped, but he's not like huge. He's like a thin, he has a six-pack, but he's not like huge, okay?
How do you know?
He's definitely in shape. He took off his shirt several times.
For arm wrestling? Or?
No, just to, I don't know why he did it. He actually reminded me of one of my good Middle Eastern friends. It's just a Middle Eastern
Do you think
thing.
he wanted to impress Black?
It's possible. I mean, I think Black wanted to impress him as well, for sure, because that's Black's MO as well.
It definitely seemed like there was some tension there. Yeah.
In the back, they challenge each other to a friendly arm wrestling contest. I'm looking at this video that another person took, okay, of this happening. Black starts arm wrestling, and you can see that His form is fucking horrific. Like really bad. And I'm sorry for the audio listeners. This is more for video. So maybe you can explain this better than me because your English is in fact better than mine. When you arm wrestle, you want your arms like this. Okay? In like
right now we're talking, if you imagine your arms up straight, it's like we're talking like 30-degree angle here.
30-degree angle. Okay. Black, for some reason, he extends his arm and his shoulder like this. This is how he's arm wrestling.
So he's bending over, or that's not the word. He's leaning too much forward, and he has a 45-degree angle.
Yes. Very good, Cinder. See, I could never do that. So they're arm wrestling, and 20 seconds in the video, and I'm bracing myself, by the way, you hear somebody behind the camera say, dude, you're going to break your arm if you keep arm wrestling like that. That's not good form. You literally hear somebody say that. 10 seconds later, his arm snaps in half. Under the bicep area, it literally snaps in half. I'm like, holy fucking shit, that is not a dislocated arm. He literally broke his arm. He broke it in half. Cinderin.
Did he win?
He lost horribly.
Oh.
So what happened was the kid felt super bad for breaking his arm, even though I don't really think it was his fault at all. They were just arm wrestling, and it is what it is. So he goes to the emergency room with him. He apparently pays the bill for the emergency room, which is like $1,000. And yeah, Black has a broken fucking arm. It's whatever the muscle underneath the bicep literally broke in half clean. So it's going to be like 4 to 6 months of rehab or whatever you want to call it to get healthy. He's in a splint right now. He had surgery in the U.S., even though we told him it would probably be better to go to another country. But he said that Singapore is actually more expensive, which...
Oh, it might be. That's true.
It might be like the only country that's more expensive than the U.S. So
this whole thing is just... For a Dota player who needs his arm to perform, that's one thing that is super sad, right? And it's really bad timing. And
yeah.
The worst thing about it is, or I don't know if that's the worst thing. Maybe that's a good thing in that situation. It's just you can only really blame yourself, right? It's just a stupid move. He's probably kicking himself. He's at least not hitting himself. Right. But he's got to be kicking himself after that. And yeah, it sucks. I guess he was planning to play competitively this season, I think. So now he's probably on like a 6-month break from that. He can't really play Dota.
It's tough to say. Like, he can move his fingers fine. And maybe if you have a high sensitivity, it's possible. It is possible. I'm not sure, though. I don't know.
Yeah.
It would be hard, for sure.
That's really shit. That's
the other
thing, suck, but
I do want to...
Okay, hang on. Let me... Oh, sorry. So
no, go ahead.
Imagine you were in this position and this happened to you.
Yes.
Would you rather that you were dumb yourself and you caused this and you're like, I was so fucking stupid, or that it was somebody else's fault? What would give you more... What would you find more solace in?
More solace? What do you mean by that?
Is that the right word for that? Maybe it's the wrong word.
That makes you feel better about it, you mean?
No, solace is the word for that. Yeah. What would make you feel better? Like, you're obviously really sad about it, right?
Well, of course it would make me feel better to blame somebody else, but I don't think I would blame somebody else. That's just a dumb move. So here's the thing, Senator. I need to finish this up with one thing. So this story got out a few days ago from Zyori's podcast, and he mentioned, which I will mention as well, that Black's wife actually tweeted that she was basically very upset with Moonduck and the whole breaking the arm thing. I think some people may have harassed her on Twitter as a result of this. That's not okay. Just look at it from her perspective. Obviously, she's wrong, but she's probably not hearing all the information since he's in the in and out of the hospital. They're across the entire world from each other. She's just reacting to this as it comes to her. So I can't blame her for that. Because it is a fucked up situation, but maybe she didn't hear the whole story. Like, I feel like anybody just sits down and listens to it, like, that's kind of...
It's very natural in situations like that where something drastic happens that people get emotional and they vent, right? She's basically venting. She's super upset with the whole situation. You need something to, something to blame or something to complain to or about or whatever. I mean, if you were put in that situation and you didn't have all the information, I think it could easily happen to anyone that you just jump to the wrong conclusion. So I don't think she's very much to blame. And
Yeah.
Like, regardless, you don't harass somebody like that anyway. Like, if they're wrong, you can point it out, but don't go for the person, go for the argument, right?
Yep.
There is actually something I should say. I'm checking Black's Twitter right now. He tweeted yesterday, I'll undergo surgery tomorrow. If there are no complications, I'll be ready to play by next week.
Okay.
Bless RNG.
That's
So
great.
this is the silver lining here. It's obviously super shitty what happened. He's not going to enjoy it. It fucking sucks. But in my opinion, the silver lining is it's definitely a learning experience. It's something that he's hopefully never going to have happen again because now he's made the mistake himself. That's what I mean. Like when I say, what do you find solace in? Because it feels like, if you were in control of it and you made the mistake, you're the one who learns. If somebody else would have caused this on him, it'd just be a shitty situation. He would feel powerless, right?
Right.
So maybe that's a positive. And then obviously, the silver lining here is if the doctors have told him he can use his hands in a week, that's really good news because it means he can play.
Yeah.
Even if his arm isn't very fit, he can't play basketball, which he loves or whatever, but he can definitely play Dota.
Yep.
And that was the biggest concern from him and his wife, I think, was that he couldn't, go for pursuing what he really wants to do. So that's very good news.
Yep. And just to finish it off, I just have to reiterate when I watched that video, Cinder. So actually, people were telling me that they heard something pop, and in the video you can hear it. It pops.
Oh, Jesus!
And it's one of those like videos where I have a, even though my stomach is pretty weak with like food and whatnot, it's not weak when it comes to like gory stuff or like fucked up stuff. I had to look away like as I saw it break.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say because I'm not weak. I played it on replay and I did it slow mo.
Yeah, not quite. Okay. I only watched it once, and that was enough. That was bad.
Okay, we have audio listeners here. If you were to describe the pop sound, what would it remind you of? Was it like a popcorn?
Like that? No.
So a bottle being opened.
No, it's not a good. It's between a bottle and something breaking. Okay. It's a more aggressive bottle opening. Imagine Imagine me after this month break of not having any soda, opening a can or opening a bottle of Coke finally. That's the sound.
A bottle, not a can, a bottle.
Yeah.
So if you imagine you open a bottle of soda with a champagne saber, that's the sound.
Wow, that's a great one. Sure. Let's go with that.
Cool. Good.
All right.
I mean,
moving on.
I've never heard it. I've never seen it happen before. So I genuinely have no idea what it sounds like. I haven't seen the clip.
You haven't seen. I mean, you can just Google any arm wrestling clip. I'm sure you can find something. I've heard that there's a lot of them, which I wasn't aware of, but it is what it is. So
just Google Dota 2 Black Mistake.
No, that might not come up with good results actually. So Adderall, Syndrin.
Right.
Let's speak.
Great transition.
Let's talk about Adderall, my friend. So Arsart, I believe this was on stream. I was actually looking for the tweets, but they're in Russian, so I didn't really decipher them. But essentially, Arsart accused OG of taking Adderall. I think he blamed actually the psychologist, which we'll talk about in a second as well. And then ends up apologizing because he doesn't have any actual proof of it.
Right.
What do you think of this situation? It was kind of weird.
I think there's like two things to talk about here. The first one is the accusation itself. I feel like when you accuse people of something serious, you need to have some sort of proof or something that you can present. If not, you're just defaming people, right? It's like if somebody randomly just starts tweeting, Syndrin is cheating on his girlfriend, And then it just makes me look fucking bad, whether it's right or wrong, and he has nothing to back it up with, and that's just shit. It's just a shit situation for him for just making it up or not having any proof, and for me to being put on the spot, and for my girlfriend who is then in that awkward situation, right? Just as an example. So with this Adderall thing, this is a professional field. The expectation is that the pro players play a fair game in the spirit of good sportsmanship, and using performance-enhancing drug in any sport is, cheating. So accusing someone of this is like accusing them of cheating, basically, to win, because Adderall is only really allowed for people that have a prescription. So if you need it to function because you have ADHD or a version of that, then obviously, of course, it should be allowed. It's also allowed in for example, the NFL or whatever, if you have, if it's needed, you can get it prescribed and they can use it.
Right.
So accusing someone of this is super bad. Then the other thing about this in general is like the whole what kind of light it puts the scene in, and the authenticity of esports as a whole, with like speculations, are people cheating? It's been a huge scandal in especially bike sports over the years with doping and stuff, which just makes the sport look bad. So when a big personality like Arsart, who's one of the biggest Russian analysts, makes statements like this, there's just nothing good about it. It makes the game look bad. It makes the players look bad. It makes him look bad. And if you have no proof, like, what was the point?
Right.
If you wanted to start a discussion about it, that's fine. You can do that in a different way. You can, ease people into the subject and start talking about the possibility that this might be a thing that's happening or whatnot. But it kind of sounded, from what I've gathered, a lot of the CIS analysts didn't think OG, quote unquote, deserved to win because they weren't good all year. I mean, that's sports. Sometimes you're good, sometimes you're not. If you're peaking at the perfect time, that takes absolutely nothing away from your accomplishment.
It sounds like they figured out how to play TI. That's what they figured out.
Exactly. And that is a huge skill in itself. And if you suck all year and you can win TI, I think everybody in Dota would trade their year away for that.
Yes.
They would absolutely take it. I think any pro player in Dota right now would literally take last place at every event or not even go to win TI.
Easily.
So,
not even close.
I don't really get it. Maybe they're bitter because their home team, Virtus Pro, sucks at TI and is super good during the year. And that's obviously a huge shame, but that doesn't really, how do I explain this? Let's imagine Liquid won instead. I don't know if the statement would have been there because they consider Liquid more deserving winners because they have a stronger history in the last 2 years of doing well at LANs. But if you go back far enough, OG, some of their players have huge accomplishments in history. Notel's won 4 majors, is it?
Yep.
Seb has coached for, I think, 3 of them, maybe. JRX has won 2 of them. Ana has won 3 of them, I think, or whatever. 2
majors,
well?
2 TIs. Yeah.
I mean, these players are super proven, so I don't get what it's all about. So yeah, it's just a really shit situation. That's
so you think it was more of a salty backlash, essentially, and not like maybe it could have been something that he just heard, that he's just, it's like a rumor mongering type thing, being the gossip, if you will.
Maybe
no actual
but it's
proof.
Like anyone who has an ulterior motive can start that, right?
Yeah.
So if you just hear it from somebody who hears it from somebody, like, what's the legitimacy?
So
like I could fucking come up with that on the spot and just say it. Like, absolutely not.
Let's talk about Adderall just briefly. So you do consider it like fully cheating? Because what it's supposed to do is for people with ADHD or ADD is to help them focus, right? And if a normal person takes it, what happens? They just become more focused?
It really varies. That's the other thing about this thing. I think there's a lot of misconception floating around about Adderall and how it works. A lot of people just seem to think of it as this like wonder drug that if you don't have ADHD and you take Adderall, you're just like more focused, you're faster, you have better reactions, you have better communication. Like, it would just make everything better. But this works really differently on different people. Not everybody has the positive effects, and the positive effects vary too. So it's not like just a straight up, this is just making you better or worse. And arguably, when you think about it, that's also, if it's good for some people and bad for others, in a way, it's an even more unfair advantage, right? Because you're just lucky to be the person that has the positive effects out of it rather than the negative ones.
Okay, here's a random question. Not to go off on a tangent, Cinder. Have you ever seen the movie Limitless, or the show? It's about...
No, I think I've heard of it, though.
All right, it obviously is not exactly... Essentially, it's about a pill that just makes you a hell of a lot smarter. Like, it amplifies everything. What if that pill was available with 0 downsides? Anyone can take it. Do you think everyone would take it? Do you think it would just end up being a requirement that everyone takes this pill? So if everyone's fucking smart? Smarter? Yeah, like everyone. No downsides. Do you think it would be enforced? I don't know why I just thought of this. I just find it fascinating.
I don't think it's in the interest of everybody that would happen, right?
You don't think it's in the interest of everybody?
A lot of people that are in positions of power are in positions of power because the population that they're governing aren't necessarily very intelligent and realizing what's going on, right? I mean, that's pretty dark and maybe cynical to think of it that way, but I think it's pretty real when you think about it, right?
Yeah,
like a lot of people vote against their own interests or don't exactly understand what's going on. So if everybody was smarter, those people would definitely not want it, right? Because they would lose their power.
All All right,
Yeah,
let's
I don't
let's
think that. That's a very interesting
no, I
scientific
yeah,
fact.
that was a side. That was a little tangent. Okay,
Okay.
so let's talk about OG Psychologist,
Oh, before
Mia.
that, let me just finish off
Oh,
this because I think
okay.
we didn't talk enough about how this works for people that need it. So, people that have ADHD, I'm not an expert. I don't have it. I don't have anyone in my family that has
You
it, but
sure you
I've,
don't have it, Sindren?
I'm pretty convinced.
Okay.
Maybe a mild case. You never know. Like it's a spectrum, right? But
Mm-hmm.
you get basically people with ADHD. I don't want to go too much into detail because I don't want to say anything that's wrong. But they have like different. That was the classic syndrome preface right there, by the way. They
Typical.
have they can have trouble focusing or sitting still or being able to be in the zone for something for a long time, and it basically allows them to I don't know how to explain this, like how you imagine it. It's just this inability to concentrate really on something for extended periods of time, which is like for something like Dota is super necessary, right? Or if you're studying or whatever. So what the prescription does is it helps them calm down all of these separate factors and just focus on the target at hand or the subject.
Isn't
So
the
that's how it
issue?
is supposed to work for people that actually need the prescription. That's what it does for them. Is
Yeah, but
it just
isn't
helps them with their everyday life, just living normally.
I don't know if it was like this for you guys, but in the U.S., when I was growing up, there were a lot of doctors just throwing like Ritalin. I believe Ritalin's similar to Adderall, and Adderall just around left, right, and center, as if everyone has ADD. Like every kid was getting diagnosed with ADD. Essentially,
Right.
that's an exaggeration, but
I've seen a documentary on this on Netflix. Actually, that was
oh,
a
so
really good documentary
you
about it.
probably know more than me then. But would you say that has anything to do with the conception, like the misconceptions perhaps behind like you don't really need it. It's just one of those things that anybody can take. You know what I mean? Like
I think
it's hard
largely
to
it was
explain.
because there was a phase of like a couple of decades where this Adderall medicine was just kind of considered a wonder drug. Like it was considered to not have any major side effects or downsides to it. So it was very easy to prescribe to people because the industry was booming. It made fuckloads of money in the US, especially. And nobody really complained because they just felt like it was good. But the side effects are there, especially for people that don't need it, right? So I just think they were way too trigger happy with putting people on this drug, and it would calm them down. They'll be like, "There you go, problem fixed." But the fact of the matter is, it's a type of meth, right? So long-term effects, and if you use this all the time on people that aren't supposed to have it, it's probably something bad going to happen at some point. And the question is when you come crashing down, right? Short-term,
Yeah,
it might
but
look great, as many drugs do, but you
Cinderin,
always need to be very careful with how you use it. Yeah,
let's just make a team and we all take Adderall. We'll win TI. What do you
that's
think?
very interesting perspective.
I have the mechanics necessary. All right,
I'm
so
sure.
moving on.
I've seen you play.
I know it's unfortunate.
No drug can save you.
Let's talk about OG psychologist Mia. Is it Mia or Maya? I don't know. Stelberg. She was also a psychologist for Astralis. What do you think of this
Yes,
idea
correct.
of? I don't know how many teams actually have psychologists, but like life coach. I don't know if it's the same thing, but I know a lot of teams have that. Maybe not to the same degree. What do you think of the idea of having a team psychologist to just keep everybody together?
I think it is super useful,
And how
and
many
I think
teams
the
use
whole
it, Cinderin? Do you know?
not very many, and I think it's because you need to like from organization's perspective or from team's perspective, you need to assess if you feel like it's worth the cost. I think when you get to the top level of Dota, this is the kind of thing that's worth paying for, because Dota at the highest level is extremely mental. It's not just about being focused in the game, having good drafts. It's about really trusting your teammates, playing off each other well, resolving conflict, so that everybody goes into the game feeling good, feeling ready, feeling like they want to, draw on each other as much as possible to get the victory. Because Dota is a game where everybody needs to draw on everybody to win when you're at that level. If one player has a terrible game or isn't communicating or isn't trying, you're going to lose. Even if the other four play amazing Dota at that level, everybody needs to be in the game. And it's just, I don't think it's a coincidence, right? Like Astralis had this insane streak while she was the psychologist, and now OG decided we're going into TI. It hasn't been the greatest year. They get this psychologist on board and they win again. The track record is kind of crazy. I know it's a small sample size, but it's a pretty significant one regardless, right? Like
Yep.
it just seems like it can't really be a coincidence. She hasn't been working with teams that just sucked, right? At least, well, maybe the stories just didn't get told then. That is possible. But as far as I'm aware, those are the two orgs she has worked with, and it's been great results. And to me, it makes total sense. Absolutely.
Yep, I agree. I'm expecting this to become more of a thing going forward. I'm actually surprised this wasn't more of a thing earlier, because this is very standard in traditional sports.
Exactly.
I mean,
and it
you're
is for a
working
reason
with,
there too, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's obviously some differences, but like in the NBA, as an example, since I love bringing that up, players have huge egos, and there's a reason for that. The level of play is so high that you have to just be the most cocky pile of shit ever for the most part. You have to think you are the best all the time in order to get where you need to go. In addition to that, you're working with other people that are exactly like you. You need a psychologist for these teams. There's way too much ego to work with. Dota, I'm not saying they're on the same level as NBA. There's no way that's true, because it's how many years of Dota 2? Like 8? So you can't compare it.
9, yeah.
But
yeah, 8.
Still, there's a lot to be said for having somebody that can actually bring people together, because we talked about this time and time again with people that have placed very high at TI. A lot of it's momentum based. And what does that mean? That's literally how your mood is. Everybody's in a good mood. Everybody's confident. Confidence is key in this game. And yeah, you have to have the mechanical skill, but you could argue that 90% of the players at TI have comparable mechanical skill to each other.
I agree.
It just comes down to communication, comes down to your motivation to get better, and working with your team with chemistry. So having a psychologist helps with pretty much all of that.
Yep.
Okay. A couple other things that happen in the world of Dotes. A fan, this one's kind of funny.
Oh yeah, I saw this. This is funny.
A fan sent Wikram a message asking if it's okay if he uses like one of his TI winning pictures of OG for something, and Wick's like, of course. And this guy apparently makes a billboard in the Philippines. What do you think about that? That's so cool. That is so cool.
I think it's super funny.
Can you imagine your face on a billboard in another country, Sindren?
Do they actually? They don't need to give permission, right? Do they? Like, I don't know what the laws are. Like in the US, for example, if you were to put up a billboard with OG fucking 1TI, let's go, and you put all their faces on, do they need to approve it?
Well,
because their faces are on the billboard?
You'd have to approve the fuck part for sure, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure. That's a good question. If it's like in the Philippines, nobody's going to give a shit, right? In a lot of countries, they're not. 90% of the countries are not going to care. But
well, I mean,
yeah,
the people might care. I don't know. I think OG think it's cool and great and it's super.
No, what
good
I'm
for
saying
their
is they
fan
would
base,
never
right?
enforce anything in the Philippines. Like if OG didn't like it, there's no way anything would happen. But the U.S., maybe. I could see it.
Okay. I mean, I think it's really funny and cool, and it's a great way of celebrating your favorite team, right?
Yeah.
Probably also an expensive way of celebrating your favorite team, but you know.
Yeah, I don't know how much billboards are, but it can't be super cheap, that's for sure. Okay. And then the last thing, which I want to talk a little bit about, there was a thread about Basshunter perhaps being invited to TI-10 in Sweden. Now, for people that don't know who Basshunter is, and first and foremost, Sindren, before I say anything, I actually tried to get him to come to Captain's Draft. I never told this. It's not much of a story. I looked into it, and it turned out he was, like, we never actually got in contact, but I just heard through other people that he asks for a lot of money. So it just never happened. But I always wondered, like, why has Basshunter never been invited to a TI? And of course, to explain, before we continue, Sinner, for people that have no idea who Basshunter is, this is a guy that, I guess he's a songwriter, singer. Is he in a band, I guess, technically? Some sort of a group? I don't know the exact details these days. Sure. But he became known within the Dota community for a song, which you can Google on YouTube, called... what is it called?
It's called Dota. I think that's the actual name of the song. I think so.
Da na 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 na. If you guys have heard that before, that's the Basshunter song. So
we're sitting here in Ventrilo playing Dota.
Yes, I was thinking Ventrilo. Okay.
So you get an idea of when the song's from. So 2006. So it's 13 years old.
It's for Dota 1, but of course it caught on, and I don't know if it's one of his most famous. I have no idea. But why has this guy never been invited to a TI Syndrome? Isn't that crazy to think about?
So supposedly, I'm not sure when this happened, but he started working with Riot. And I don't know when that was. Yeah, he did something for Riot. I don't know if he wrote songs or whatever it was, but he has definitely been affiliated with Riot in some capacity. And I seem to remember when League of Legends came out, or maybe it was Han, but he didn't stay with Dota, like many other people did, at
Yeah.
least not to the same extent. He like did other content, and I personally don't have a problem with that. Like, people are going to explore options if they get a great opportunity. I mean, why not, right? But it probably disconnects you a little bit from Dota. There are a couple of possibilities why he hasn't been invited to TI. Perhaps Valve feels like he doesn't fit the vibe of TI, being a little bit more like the whole atmosphere of it. But then they got Deadmau5, and at that point, it's like they could have probably got Basshunter for that too.
Yeah.
And maybe they tried. Maybe he couldn't go. Maybe he had other commit. You never know, right? Like, they could have tried to get him. He couldn't go, and then they got Deadmau5, or they were like. You also have to remember from a profiling perspective, Basshunter is really big in the Dota community because of the song called Dota and the history there with all the older people, older players. But if you want it to be like a marketing event that makes headlines, Basshunter is not a big name really outside of Dota to the same extent. Like, Deadmau5 is a way bigger name to have at your event, right? If you want to profile it. So you need to like consider like the pros and cons of that. Your community is gonna fucking love that Basshunter is there doing his famous song for Dota, but people outside of Dota won't care that Basshunter was there because they don't know who he is to the same extent as Deadmau5, right? So
Yeah.
We actually had an after party with Darude. I think that was one of the TIs as well.
It was.
The guy who made Sandstorm.
TI4,
right?
I was there.
Yeah.
Or TI5, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, one of them. But the reason it makes more sense for him to be invited to the next TI is because it's in Sweden. He's Swedish.
Absolutely.
So it's everything just feels like it's aligning. It's TI10. Like, everything feels like it's just perfect. So I'm hoping that they end up doing that. But I do have to mention that in some of the comments for that thread, we saw a lot of people calling him a traitor for working. Like, I didn't know how closely he worked with Riot. I didn't know it was like an official capacity. I just thought he did like a song for them or something. I don't know. I don't really follow him.
I don't know it either.
I know he played. He definitely played League more than Dota 2. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
But he's an OG guy, like original. That is not actual OG. And I don't understand this whole idea of just hating on people to that degree for playing other games anyway. Like, so for me, go ahead.
Yeah, the whole trader mentality in Dota goes back to... So the way League was started, right, was that Pendragon was one of the guys...
Pendragon? Wow.
Pendragon.
I've never heard that pronunciation before.
Do you call him Pendragon?
Yeah.
We can call him Pendragon. I don't know. I don't know why. It's just Pendragon. I like that.
That's weird. Okay.
Sounds like a kind of like hexagon,
Pendragon.
Let's call him Pendragon if you like.
Okay.
Basically, he ran the Play Dota page, which was the biggest hub for all Dota-related stuff for many years. And it was also where the patches came out, and it was the one that IceFrog was also working very closely with. And at some point, he packed that site up and left. Basically shut it down and started working with Riot. So people were really sour because this drama would have never been there to the extent that it was if he would have just handed it over to someone else and been like, guys, I'm going to work on another game. Best of luck with your community. IceFrog is taking over from here, or whatever, If he would have done that, it would be fine. But people are super bitter because he kind of, for the sake of competition and benefiting League, shut down that page. And then League of Legends started actively, aggressively marketing their game as not Dota. I remember this ad where they presented League as the version of Dota that did not have lag and levers and shit. Like, just started kind of smearing Dota in their ad campaigns. And that leaves people with a bitter taste in their mouth, right? And that's why I think, honestly, it's because of him that the whole trader mentality even started. I don't think the Dota community would care nearly as much about people playing League if it wasn't like associated with what Pendragon did. People just feel like, if you go to League away from Dota, you're joining Pendragon and he's literal Satan.
All right, I'm actually going to disagree with you on this, Synderen.
Okay.
Even though
that's very unusual. Not really.
I agree with like the idea that you're talking about, but I would venture out to say that 80% of people that play Dota have no idea who Pendragon is at this point. I think that's
they
kind
don't
of
need
old
to.
news.
But the whole, it's not about needing to know who he is. It's about the idea of fostering in the community that playing League is traitorship, right?
Right.
That's what I mean.
You could say
And
that
that's started with that.
here's the thing. That's the reason that is because it's the main competition of Dota. When Han was around, it was just as toxic.
Was
now
it,
Han's
though?
dead. Yes, it was just when
Were
people
people
from Han
calling
came
people
over.
traitors from playing Han?
Well, it's a little bit different. Like No Tail switched from Han to Dota. They're called Han Trash. There's a reason it's called Han. Like it was actually pretty toxic.
I don't know. I kind of felt like,
Early on.
honestly, my read on that was that it was more playful than the League thing. I feel like Han Trash is not nearly as hostile as calling somebody a fucking traitor for playing another game.
I mean,
don't
maybe
know.
it's not as bad, but again, like Han Trash now is almost a term of endearment. But back then it was not. I remember vividly that it was definitely
So
not.
people were like genuinely upset
Yes.
at people for playing Han instead of
Yes,
Dota. I mean,
exactly.
I could be very wrong on that. My perspective
So-
is different. I never played Han, so
Like, here's the thing. I can't understand why you would hate people that play another
Mm-hmm.
game just in general. Doesn't matter what game it is. I can understand hating Riot. I hate Riot. I think they're a garbage ass company. The things that they do are very regime like, let's say.
your access to teamfight tactics has been revoked.
Yes, thank God for that. Like I will never play a Riot game because that company is absolute pile, right? Doesn't mean I hate the players. Like I'm mind boggled that people like League of Legends. I don't understand why. I think this is gonna maybe offend some people. I think the same way about Minecraft. I don't understand why people play. It doesn't mean I hate them. It's just I don't get it. You know,
Yeah,
it's just not
That's
my
fine.
type.
You
my
like different
thing.
games.
I do.
I don't
All right.
understand why people like basketball.
Shut your fucking mouth, Cinder. Anywho, that is the Dota news of the week, guys. So let's move on to our next favorite game, Cinder, and Dota Underlords. Are you excited? Have you been playing?
Sure. I have actually not played this update. I played a lot of Underlords at TI. A lot, actually. I played it pretty much every day, I think. For the most part, at least, I played a couple of games. But since this came out, I did not, because I have mainly been playing, when I haven't been playing Dota, I've been playing Classic WoW. We've talked about that last episode,
You've
that it
been
will come
enjoying
out, and I was
yourself?
super excited for it. I love it, man. It's like, there was, like I talked about last time, there was a skepticism about, is it just going to be nostalgia or whatever? It's just a good game. Like, the game is just enjoyable, well designed, and fun to play. And it still is. Now that I've played it for many hours since it came out already, I can say, again, I can stand by my statement. For me, it's one of the 3 best games of all time
Wow.
that I've played. It's just,
What was
an
your rank
incredible
again?
experience. But it's not for everybody. What's that?
What was your rank again in no particular order? Warcraft or not?
Warcraft 3, Dota 2, and WoW. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
And then I think for me, Counter-Strike is also somewhere in the top 5. That's up there. I also
Very
loved playing that game. But yeah,
We
it's
should
an
play
amazing game.
sometime, Cinder.
I love it. Oh yeah, we could play CS at some point. I'm terrible. So
I know. That's
you can
why
carry
it
me
makes
for
me
once.
feel good about myself.
I know you would carry the fuck out of me.
All right, so Dota Underlords came out with a pretty big patch. I'm not gonna lie, for a couple weeks, I wouldn't say I didn't play, but I wasn't paying as much attention to it because I was focused on Jungle Jam and whatnot. And one thing that I was a bit annoyed with, and usually I love these updates that change a lot because it just makes it very interesting, but I feel like they were doing it a little bit too often. Of course, it is in beta, so I do understand that. But the one thing that was bothering me was the odds. They kept changing, like in a matter of 2 weeks, they changed like the percentages of what level you get what units, and I don't even remember anymore at that point. It's just too much information. So finally, they came out with a change that makes it easier for me, at least. The odds were changed for the 4th time, like we said, for legendaries, which are now called aces. Basically can find them easier at level 8 to 10. So when we basically first started playing, it's essentially, it might be a little different, but basically the same odds as before. So it's back to original. It's like come full circle at this point. They got rid of all the 9-tier alliances. So assassin, elusive, and warrior. And it's just 3 and 6. And as a result, they buffed most of them at level 1 and 2 for those tiers, which is great. Because 9 warriors was garbage, 9 assassins was garbage, 9 elusives was amazing for 2 weeks, and then garbage the rest of the time. So I'm very happy about that.
And on top of that, it wasn't really a very enjoyable concept. I think elusives were kind of
Yeah, elusives in
like
general.
the second dumbest concept after knights.
What? What's wrong with knights? I love knights.
That's boring.
That's not boring. Do you fucking
That
think
is
Dragon
boring.
Knight is boring?
No,
He's a
cool.
beast. Exactly.
He's cool, but then coincidentally, he's a knight. It's more like that. It's not he's cool because he's a knight. He's cool despite being a knight.
I mean, can he play knights without Dragon Knight? No, he's part of the comp. That's just how it is.
I mean, yeah.
All right, moving on. Shaman now requires 2 heroes instead of 3, which is great. And then this is the funny thing. For 2 days, the units had a 10% chance of being turned into a chicken when attacking a shaman, down from 17%. Then they changed it again yesterday, Cinderin. Units now have a 17% chance of being turned into a chicken when attacking a shaman.
I guess they
there's
very
more to it than
quickly,
that.
that's the thing about this game is when they have this, in comparison to something like Dota, I think rebalancing things is a lot easier because you get lots of data really fast about win rates and impact of units, and then you can quickly see even after 2 days, okay, this is too bad. So kind of think of it as a fix.
I'm not telling the whole story because there were a lot of other changes that were in conjunction to that, but I'm just saying what happened and what the results are right now. So we'll get to, once we're through the whole list, you'll understand. So one big change is tier 5 heroes, like I said, are called aces. What do you think of that name? Ace. Got an ace. Do you like it? Tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, ace.
Yeah, so what I'm thinking when I hear that is I think of a deck of cards, right? I guess obviously. But the other units aren't really named like deck of cards, and it's inspired by chess, so maybe they should have been called Regal.
Ooh,
So like the
Regal.
kings or queens. Okay, you don't like that? I mean, I don't really like it that
They
much.
could have just called it king, but they just wanted it better. They wanted
but
ace.
they aren't all male.
So it's a king can be, I guess you're right.
No, it can't. It actually just can't.
I guess that's kind of true. All right. So I personally like it. It's fine. This is the cool thing about ace heroes now, friend.
Oh, somebody's saying royals in chat. What do you think?
Ooh,
about
that's really
that?
good.
Royal hero?
Yeah, that's nice. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
So when you get one of these ace heroes now, it's very obvious. They're all flamey and whatnot. It has an ace effect, as they call it, that's enabled when you have at least one level of any of the associated alliance. So, for example, when you have like 2 warlocks and you find Disruptor, which is now an ace, spoiler, that counts towards this new buff that you get, which we'll go through each one independently. You can talk about what you think, because I've had some experience with some of them and they're very interesting. One other thing, when one level is activated of an alliance, there's a 15% increased chance to find an ace unit of that alliance. So, for example, if you want Troll Warlord for the Troll Alliance, you need, like, let's say Witch Doctor's already there. You can theoretically hold on to Shadow Shaman. I'm not sure if you need him on your bench only or if you have to put him in play temporarily, but either way.
You need the alliance to be an effect, I think.
Yeah, that's
But
my
it means you
understanding
could keep
as well.
the third troll on your bench. That's how I understand it.
Well, you can have the second troll in play and just roll and then take him out before you want to play. So that's why I'm saying like Shadow Shaman's a great unit to do that for.
I think so. I
it's
think
an
that's how it
interesting way. So let's talk about the heroes that were changed in consequence of
hang
a
on,
lot of
before we
them
go
being ace.
there. The 15% chance, is that 15 percentage? It's relative, right?
Relative,
So
yes.
if you had 10% chance of finding a troll, you now have 11.5.
I think so.
Not 25 among the 5-star units.
That's my understanding.
Good. Okay.
I'm not 100% sure about that one, though. Okay, so Bloodseeker, instead of just a human assassin, is now a human Deadeye assassin. So that makes Gyrocopter, Sniper, and now Bloodseeker, which is really cool because you want to be attacking these low HP targets to heal up again. So
I feel like Bloodseeker might actually be useful now. I haven't played, like I said, since it came out, but this was one of my least favorite units in the game. I thought it was almost always garbage, and I would only use it with Fall from Grace.
Yeah, I mean, he's okay. It depends on what items you get. He's still item dependent. It's not really a unit that you're going to keep late game most of the time, but if you really want the Deadeye for some reason, then it could be good.
Who else is Deadeye? It's only Sniper and Gyro still, right?
Yep, that's it.
Okay. And Sniper
Disruptor
is scrappy. It's a bit awkward maybe to make it work, but you know.
So Disruptor, instead of being a brawny, wait, what was he? A brawny shaman
There's
warlock.
a brawny shaman.
They got rid of one shaman, which is him. So he's a brawny warlock now. And his ace effect, because he is now an ace unit, he was upped from a tier 4 unit. His ace effect is the Warlock Alliance effect now applies to 2 units in addition to the Warlock itself instead of just 1. So essentially, when you have the Warlock Alliance activated, let's just say with 2 heroes normally, When the Warlock casts a spell, it'll basically heal a unit that's the lowest HP. It'll kind of make a bond between you two, right? So when you have Disruptor, it basically amplifies all of that to an extra unit. It's really powerful. This unit is
the extra unit the
good.
second lowest health or a random one?
Not 100% sure about that one, but I assume it's the second lowest HP.
I would think so too. Yeah. Okay.
So Enigma also changed a bit. For 2 days, it was the Shaman Ace effect, which extended the effects of the Shadow Shaman Alliance or the Shaman Alliance to your entire army. So for 2 days, it was super OP to get Shamans with Enigma because your entire army would turn people to chickens. This is why I read the first change originally. So it was very OP. So they changed it again to an old thing that they had in the game for a week. I know it's getting very complicated, by the way. Now, when you have Enigma, the Ace effect is enemies affected by hexes, silences, or stuns will generate minus 200% mana, which when that used to be the old Shaman, just in general, their alliance, which was very underwhelming at the time. But the difference is you only need 2 heroes now for Shaman. So it could be better.
So now when you have the Shaman Ace and another Shaman, you have 17% chicken chance and minus 200% mana regen.
The 17% chicken chance is only for things that are attacking Shamans, though.
Shamans, yes.
That's the difference now.
Yeah.
So interesting change there.
Okay.
Gyrocopter, Deadeye, Ace effect. His Deadeyes get True Strike. So when Gyrocopter's in there with another...
Pretty bad?
It's probably the weakest one.
It's
maybe
only
the next
good against
one's weaker.
elusives, right? It doesn't matter for literally anything else.
But
does it?
No, that's correct. I mean, in the future, there might be like Butterfly and stuff like that, so who knows?
Right, okay.
Lich is also an Ace unit, of course, has a Mage Ace effect. Your army's mana regeneration from attacks is increased 10% per Mage Alliance level, so you can only get this up to 20%, which is not great.
Okay. It's still, the concept of it sounds cool. Like, if the numbers are good, it's something else. But it sounds pretty, like, you could make some cool strategies with this, I think.
Yeah, so just to give you an idea, like, Brooch of the Aggressor is 100% mana. So that one item gives you 100% mana. This is up to 20%, so it's
Yeah.
But I do like
But
the
the
idea.
other thing is mages might still be powerful even if they didn't have it. So you need to be careful with not buffing that alliance too hard.
Yeah, that's true.
It's always tricky with this. Like, if the alliance itself is inherently... Like, the inherent power of the minus resistance is super strong. So if the ace was also strong, mage would just be insane, I think. But
Medusa, she gets the scaled ace effect, so some love for scaled units. It grants scaled units retaliate, which is an old global item, which in essence, per alliance level, will deal 25 damage a second to heroes that are attacking a scaled unit. And she was also nerfed. Her Stone Gaze and her general range went down from 4 to 3, which is pretty big. So this is not great. So the old Retaliate, if you remember when it originally came out, Cinderin, it was 80 damage a second. So you can only get this up to 50% if you get tier 2 of scaled. So a little underwhelming.
And scaled is not really something you go for.
Well,
sometimes you get 3 scaled, like or 2 scaled, right? It's 2 and 4, right? Do you ever go for 4 scaled? Like, do they have synergy with each other? I don't even remember.
Rarely, no. It's not. It's
Slark,
Tidehunter, Medusa,
Slardar.
Slark, and Slardar.
There's like, they're from 4 different branches, right? It's
Well,
one
Slardar
assassin,
Tide
one warrior.
is 2 warriors. So that's
True,
nice.
it's 2 warriors, and then an assassin and a hunter. That's kind of awkward.
It is. Techie, this one is probably the coolest change in the patch for me. Techies is an ace again. Inventor ace effect is grants inventor units chain reaction. So what this does is the enemies that are killed when you explode from unstable reactor will also blow up as if they had unstable reactor. So it's like boom, 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 boom. You see like huge explosions in these fights, which sounded cool, and I thought it might not be that good. It's actually that good. It's really good.
I don't know if I conceptually like this because so when it comes to these fights, inherently fights in Underlords have a lot of there's a lot of randomness. Do units hit the right target? Do they cast their spells properly? You know, all this kind of stuff that just varies. If the same board fights each other 10 times, you can't predict the outcome. Like, a lot of the time it will vary what ends up happening. This to me seems super RNG because either you get this chain reaction and you just win, or it's useless. It's like most other things here have some sort of reliable effect, if that makes sense. Like, when you look at all of the other ones we've talked about, you know what you're going to get and how it's going to work.
The reason for that is
this
because
just-
Scrappies are pretty strong right now. Because remember, Snipers are Scrappy now. That means 7 of them. That means you don't need techies to have 6, which is really strong. And if you find techies,
it's
it amplifies
Inventor,
everything.
right? It's
right.
Inventor,
But Scrappy Inventors go together, right?
Yeah.
Inventors are just part of, like, they're almost one and the same for the most part. You just, that's what happens.
Yeah, I don't know. Out of all of these so far, I've liked all of them, but this one, the concept, I'm not that big of a fan of.
That's interesting.
For that reason.
I don't know about the concept.
Do you agree with that?
Fun.
Like, have you tried playing it?
Yes, I've tried it a lot. It's really fun.
Do you find like big variance? To me, when I look at this, it sounds like something that's going to have huge variance. Like in one fight, you're going to win with losing 3 units, and the next one you're just going to lose to the same board.
I don't think
it's all about when your units die.
It's not as drastic as you think.
Okay. I mean, it's speculation. I haven't tried it, but like the concept to me doesn't sound that good.
Okay, fair enough.
Anyway.
And then the last ace unit that was changed, Troll Warlord. First of all, his attack range there was some miscommunication with the patch notes, but he was actually nerfed. So 1.0 attack rate has become a 0.77, so that's a pretty sizable nerf. His Troll ace effect is grants your units with mini bash. So for each level of the Troll Alliance, there's 2. You get a 5% chance for all your units to stun for 0.25 seconds. So it could be 10% chance for 0.25 seconds if you have 4 trolls. Pretty meh.
How many units are channeling in this game?
What do you mean?
Coddle?
Coddle, and that's it, I think.
That's the only channeling spell in the game.
I think so.
Because that's what this stuff is good against, is if it could break channeling.
I mean,
stuns, that's why it's good in Dota.
It stops them attacking temporarily. It prevents damage in that way. Like,
but that's the big play, right? Would be mini stunning a Coddle who's charging Illuminate, and then you win the fight off that or whatever.
Right.
But
usually you'll win before Coddle gets it off anyway because he's garbage. But that's
Shadow Fiend. Chat's saying Shadow Fiend. It's pretty good against Shadow Fiend.
Yeah, Shadow Fiend,
Windrunner, Power Shot.
Either way,
I think countering Power Shot's not that important, but countering
Assassinate
is really good. Yeah. Wait.
Either way,
okay.
I think this is very underwhelming. I think this is going to get buffed because for me, trolls just feel super underwhelming versus auto chess. They've always felt underwhelming, just not good. Like going 4 trolls doesn't win you games at all, and it should. It should be really powerful because you have 2 garbage units, Bat Rider and Shadow Shaman. Witch Doctor's great, Troll's amazing, so it should be stronger than this. So I'm a little bit disappointed in that one. I think it'll get buffed anyway. And then the final thing of this update, Cinderin, they added contraption items, which you said you have not tried these. They're hilarious. They're placeable items that behave like normal units, but do not count towards your cap. So, for example, a tier 2 item called Barricade was added. It has 400 HP and 20 armor. It comes with 2 barricades, and you can place them to block enemies and ranged attacks, and they're immune to spells. What do you think of this?
So you're selecting this instead of another tier 2 drop.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Okay.
They just appear on your board, so they're always on your board for the rest of the game. You can't unequip them or anything like that.
And you can't change their placement?
You can change. Yeah, you can put them anywhere you want.
Okay. I love the idea of this. Whether the concept themselves are good, I don't know. But the idea of having placeable items on the board, I think, is super great. And it adds complexity, it adds outplay, it adds strategy. It just makes the game... Yeah, I think it's good complexity because it's not hard to understand, but using this effectively is really rewarding. I think you're going to feel like, man, I made a really good build this game.
That's
with
a good
my
point.
Whatever. I think it's great. It's good for gameplay.
So this one in practice feels pretty underwhelming. It's pretty good early in certain comps, but it's hard to... I haven't quite figured it out, in all honesty. I think it's a hard one to... Like, the obvious one is getting Arc Warden in a corner, sure, but... It's hard to actually make it work, I feel like. So I'm looking forward to seeing like what pros figure out with that because I think it's going to take some time.
These barricades, can they turn or can they only face forward? They can't face sideward, right?
You can't change their... I mean, it still blocks it, though. It still takes up a whole space.
No, but I mean, you could imagine you could have your backline, then you could put a barricade that blocks assassins that jump, for example. Because then they hit the barricade first. So you can turn them.
No, you can't turn them.
Okay. You get what I'm trying to say here, right? Like the barricades could be 90-degree angle, and I think that would help your backline, but you can't do that.
I mean, the barricades do help against assassins in general because it blocks regardless of what way they're actually facing because it's only one way they're facing. But you'd need 2 of them like 2 of these item drops to actually like completely block off somebody, which would be interesting. Haven't seen that one yet. The next one is much better. Tier 2 item called Target Buddy. It's like a little Tidehunter plushie. Has 1,000 HP and 10 armor, and it taunts enemies and draws fire, and you can equip items on this. This is a really good Tier 2 item.
What does taunts enemies mean? Is that permanent or a spell it casts?
It's like a spell with no mana cost. So at the very beginning, it just casts it. And then I don't know what the cooldown is. X amount of seconds later, it'll cast it again if it's still alive. So you can equip items like Vit Booster, armor, whatever, if you want to tank it up. It's like a mini axe, essentially.
Right.
It's very powerful in the early to mid game. I like it a lot. And then late game, you can just put it in the backline for assassins, for example, and just waste somebody's time for a bit. So it's really good.
Gotcha.
The next one, underwhelming. Healing Ward is a tier 3 item, which is surprising. Has 200 HP. It's just Juggernaut's Healing Ward. Heals friendly units within one cell for 20 HP a second. What do you think of this one?
It sounds good against some comps. Like, for example, there are some lineups that deal AoE damage over time, like Disruptor. Maybe it can, like when you Requiem with Shadow Fiend, for example, you'd get a lot of enemy heroes down to like half, but you don't kill them.
Right.
So this item is obviously really effective when you're playing against lineup that deals spread damage from the beginning of the fight, because then all of your units have way more effective health in the battle. I think this item theoretically sounds good against knights because they slow
Low
kill,
damage.
right?
That's true.
And it sounds bad against mages because they burst kill.
But here's the thing, and Swim brought this up on our other podcast. Think about Mechanism, which is already considered not a great item. It's not terrible, but it's not great either.
Yeah.
I forget, is it either 200 or 250 HP?
250, I think.
So 250 HP in a 2-cell radius. That's already way better than this item.
In most battles, yes.
Yes, in most battles. So this one I can see getting buffed.
I agree.
In the future.
I don't think this is very powerful because of the
like
numbers.
the idea
But
of
I think
but-
the concept is strong.
Yeah, I agree.
And you might just need to buff the numbers.
And then the
You
last
could
thing
either
added,
make it two cell with 20 HP, or you could make it 1 cell with more HP. And it's like higher value for select units.
Yep, I agree. Tombstone is the last item added. Is a tier 4. It's Undying's Tombstone, if you didn't catch that. 2,000 HP, 20 armor. Ally and enemy heroes spawn zombies when they die within 2 cells of the Tombstone. I don't remember the stats, but they're pretty good, actually, of the zombies. This is very powerful.
How good are they relative to Eidolons?
Way better.
Way better than Eidolons.
Yes.
Okay. More damage or more health?
At least more health. I'm not sure about the damage.
Okay.
This
item sounds extremely good. I don't know. It
Super,
sounds
super good for sure. It's a tier 4, so it makes sense.
Right. It sounds like this is the kind of thing you can build strategies around. Oh, it says heroes. Sorry, I thought it was units. Okay. Because if it was units, this sounds like crazy with summoning strats and whatnot. But it's only the hero units that spawn zombies. Okay. Then it's a bit worse than I thought, but I still think it's great. It's still very, very good.
So that is the Dota Underlords update that came out. I've been having a lot of fun with it. Yeah, I'm enjoying Underlords a lot. The Ace units in particular, I find it's a really cool strat that, like, they had some issues before with, there was a meta where you just wanted to get legendary units and that's it. That was really boring. Then they came out with the one where you start rolling at a super early level and just get level 3s. So now I find kind of a cool like a hybrid of both where you can still go for these 3-star units en masse or whatever, or you can just go for this crazy synergy that ends up being applied with these Ace units. So, and they feel
the goal
really
of the
strong
game
in most
the
cases.
end. Like the game will not really have an end in that sense because I think they're going to be patching it a lot. But the concept should be that there are multiple good ways of playing, so you can rush and win, or you can, tech and win, kind of.
Yeah.
And I feel like this adds the possibility that both strategies with the right tweaking can be viable, and then it's about identifying if you're going the right path at the right time in the game, and that's awesome. I think what this type of game can easily fall victim to is that there is a defined way of playing that's just objectively better all the time, and that is obviously better, and that's boring. So I think they're definitely trying to add complexity to make it harder to figure out, and to give the players more different strategies, so you feel like your choices matter more in what you're doing.
Yep, I agree. So having a lot of fun with that. The last thing I wanted to talk about before we get on to our contest that we had, which I'm not looking forward to. I recently broke down Cinderin. Remember I emailed Valve trying to get a free Valve index, and
Right.
they never responded. I ended up buying one. It's very
You tried. That's
expensive.
good.
I did try. So I bought a Valve index, and I've been having a lot of fun with it with Nikki. And I think what I want to do, I don't want to talk about it in depth right now, but I want to do a review and make a video out of it, and then we can talk about it on a future episode, because it's such a cool thing. I might even stream it at some point, but it's just it's a very different experience than just gaming.
I hope
in general.
I hope we can get some really good footage of you like running into a wall or falling over.
I have not had that trouble. It's actually really good because it has like this invisible barrier. You can see like these grids, so you know what your limit is all the time.
Man, why would they implement that? That's like half the fun of it is having your friends fall over or run into things.
I'm sure somebody got seriously injured in the past, Cinder, and so it's...
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's what half the people watch Formula 1 for. They watch it for the crashes.
That's actually sad but true.
Yeah,
all right.
That is pretty sad.
So, actually, you know what? Before we get on to our contest, why don't we do one of these community questions, which isn't a community question.
You're procrastinating.
Cinderin,
delay tactics.
I don't want to hear about it. All right.
Okay.
I want to ask you a question. What would you tell your younger self, Cinderin?
What younger self? 15 or 5?
A younger self that's receptive and intelligent enough to take your advice. So let's say 15.
So like 5
old.
for me and 15 for you.
I knew you'd do that. Sure.
Oh, you set it up. So.
Don't poopy in your pants, Cinderin.
At 5.
Yeah, you never know. Is that just me?
You still do it. No, that's true. Let me think. So, what would be a good piece of advice to tell myself? You've probably thought about this already, so you can go first.
I'll go first. I actually have not thought about it until like about a minute ago, and I do have an answer. I don't know if it's the best answer. If it's not, I can come up with another one at another podcast. So what I would tell my younger self is, number one, be less negative. Even though everyone in my life has been telling me this, I don't know what's so hard about not being negative. It's been very difficult. My parents were not negative. My brother's not negative. It's weird. Like, there's no reason for me. Like, the only thing I can think of is we moved here when I was 10 to the U.S., and it was a very big culture shock, and I got made fun of a lot. I got bullied a little bit. Maybe that has something to do with it. But there's no real reason for me to currently be negative. So that would be the number one thing. Number two, kind of goes in line with the same thing. Don't hold grudges, probably. I think I definitely hold grudges. If somebody has wronged me in the past, I will like blacklist them privately, and I won't go out of my way to fuck them over or something like that. I'm not like vindictive, but I won't help them if they need help, for example, on something. So that's one I've been struggling with, because there's a lot of people, like, this is the thing that you learn throughout life. People are just different, you know? Like, there's sociopaths in the world. Like, these are it's real life things that I thought were only in movies, you know? Like, I didn't think they were just in movies. I just never thought I would associate myself with somebody in that vein, you know? So it's just learning to be less
I'm reading chat right now.
negative.
Lex rips Iori.
What?
It's just you're talking about sociopaths, and Arches is just like rips Iori. It's just random.
Yes, I mean, definitely psychopaths. But no, I think just holding grudges has been maybe a problem.
That's
for me.
interesting. I actually thought you were going to choose something else
like
as
what?
one of your key points.
Please give me mine.
Say,
it's probably correct too.
I need to find the right wording for this.
Please do.
All right, don't let friends get in the way of your success. So, like the thing you talked about with Counter-Strike, that you chose to play with friends over a big
Yeah,
opportunity, because the
that's
two
true.
things can go hand in hand. And if you try to include your friends in everything, there's a chance they're slowing you down. And that's just real, like
Yeah.
sometimes you're better than your friends at things, and you need to accept at some point that they are not as committed or as good or as motivated as you are. And that's fine. Then you have friend stuff with friends, but it's just not Counter-Strike.
Yeah.
I think for me, the
I
same
forgot
thing
about
happened
that.
in Dota. I used to play with my friends all the time, and we were equal skill level. And at some points, we just grew apart. I was way more into the game than they were. I kept playing. And I think at one point, I actually had this idea of making a friend team. And I tried it for like one day, and then I was like, this is going to be too hard. Like, let's
One
just,
day.
yeah, we just played a little bit. And I was like, okay, they have way too much catching up to do. So I was just like, this isn't feasible.
Yeah.
And that's just how it is. And that's how it is with every sport. Like, and that's completely fine. It doesn't mean you can't play CS with your friends, but it's just,
It was always my dream to have like like where I live, Arizona LAN team, and it
mhm.
was stupid. I should have just joined the teams that wanted me, that were good. You know,
Yeah.
they
Someone
sold
in
out.
chat is
I felt
saying
like a
OG are
sellout.
friends though, which here's the difference. You can find friends through Dota that are good at Dota and are on your level, but it's generally a different experience than having real life friends that you've known for 10 years and that you also coincidentally play the video game with.
Yeah.
Because you have very different relationships than these players do. And they're great friends for sure, but they develop their friendship through Dota, not the other way around. That's a
Yep.
really big difference.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I would also told
Okay,
myself, don't make a
so
bet with Cinder, so you don't have to eat fucking tomatoes. But that's another story.
okay. I think my best one for what I would tell my younger self that has kind of carried over is don't overthink things. I think it's something I've always done too much is because in the end, like when you think very much about things and plan for all sorts of situations and whatnot, it's not how it goes anyway. It's like this classic thing, like you plan in your mind how this evening is going to go. Okay, so I'm going to do this and then this is going to happen and this is going to happen. And it just doesn't go that way. Like things don't really go the way you've planned. So it's more about being able to, adjust on your feet and handle things the way that they come. And it's the same. That's actually a skill that matters in Dota because sometimes when it comes to like drafting and planning, sometimes you can get caught up too much in making these like almost flow charts of 10 steps of if they pick this and ban this and pick this and ban this and then we ban and pick and ban and pick. You can do it to an extent. It's good to have like a small chart, but at some point it gets too complex and you actually lose track of what was important in your strategy to begin with.
Hmm.
And it's something I have fallen victim to is looking for the perfect mathematical solution almost to a Dota problem rather than a functional problem that the team can execute and work on together. Because even if you think up something that you think is genius, is it realistic? That's something else. And sometimes you actually screw yourself over. So that's the Dota part of it. And then in real life, um, overthinking situations and planning too much for stuff, like it's not how it goes anyway. So you can plan a bit and think ahead, but don't get caught up too much in exact details of how you think things are going to work out because it just doesn't generally go that way.
I'm
So
surprised you said that, actually, because I would have said for you that you're too nice. Stop being too nice.
I think in Dota, for me, sometimes that can be a weakness, but I think in real life, just being
It's
nice
for
to people
Dota.
is good. Yeah,
No, I'm
that is
talking about Dota.
strictly for Dota.
Yes.
If I told my younger self, "Don't be so nice," who knows? Maybe I would have never played pro Dota.
Hmm.
I mean, it's like a random series of events that leads to something, right? Maybe I would have been amazing. Maybe I would have won 5 TIs if I told my younger self, "Don't be so
Sindren,
nice."
I would love to see you
Probably
try to
not.
be a real piece of shit for a week and
I
see what
don't know.
happens. You
I
know?
would feel really bad about it. I would just feel bad. Like being evil to people just makes me like even if I flame people in pubs or like get carried away and just get annoyed with somebody and it's like they had it coming and they deserved it or whatever. 5 minutes later when I wind down, I just feel bad. I was like, why did I get carried away? That was so stupid.
Right. I mean,
I shouldn't do that
when I
again,
say that to you, I mean it less in the sense of being toxic or something like that. It's more speaking your mind and being more
Oh
forceful with
yeah.
your opinions. That's what I mean by it. Because right
I'm
now,
I'm
I think
definitely more of a
you're
mediator than a
yes, you're too
yeah.
democratic. If that makes any sense. So, all right,
I don't yeah, sure.
short, short. All right,
It's
it's
true.
time, guys. So if you guys don't remember, Cinder and I had a friendly wager who would get more predictions correct in the TI9 compendium. If you had lost, you would have eaten I can't even remember anymore. For the third time, you're going to tell me.
Cooked Brussels sprouts.
Yes, cooked Brussels sprouts, which you hate.
Thank
And
God
for
I
me,
lose.
I will eat 2 cherry tomatoes. I don't even know if I've ever had a cherry tomato, honestly. So I do apologize in advance for the audio listeners. I do appreciate your listens. I'll try to make some juicy noise for you. But for the video, you can see these are the cherry tomatoes. I will hand pick them, and I promise not to pick like the smallest ones. I will pick normal size ones.
Well, they all look a pretty good size, though.
This is a really stupid question. Very stupid. This shows how much there's no like seed in here, right?
Right.
I can just pop it in.
I mean, tomatoes have seeds inside them. All of them do, right?
I
they're
know,
not
but
like-
Adderall. Oh, it's a tomato. It tastes exactly like a tomato. What are you talking about? It's horrible. Holy fucking shit. How do people eat this? It's garbage.
Okay, before you do your next one, before you do the next one. Oh my God.
It's so fucking bad, dude. I'm not even kidding. Holy shit. This is fucking horrific.
I can't believe it. I was expecting you to probably dislike them like this. I haven't. People dislike stuff. To me, it's just so surreal. It's just so funny. You're eating a tomato, which is like the most harmless thing that, in my mind, everybody eats and doesn't mind, and you fucking hate it. It's so good.
It tastes like...
It's a fucking tomato, man.
What does it taste like? It's so bad. It's like rotting feet with a mix of vomit. That's what it tastes like to me.
Have you eaten rotten feet?
That's what I expected to sound or to taste like. Fuck
Okay,
you,
so
by
before
the
you
way,
do
for
the
this.
next one, so
Yes.
you've had tomatoes before and you really dislike it, or you've had it in
Yes.
burgers or whatever. Cherry tomatoes generally are a bit more flavorful and a bit sweeter than burger tomatoes. They're bigger and have lost a lot of their taste from breeding.
I wouldn't know. This tastes exactly the same as all the tomatoes. To
They
me.
taste the exact same to you, these ones and burger tomatoes. Interesting. To me, there's a huge difference. I think cherry tomatoes are much better.
So I will say, even though I hate tomatoes with a passion, I love ketchup. I love tomato sauce, whether it's in spaghetti or pizza. And I love tomato soup. I love all of them.
Really?
But I hate
so funny.
tomatoes.
That is
Are you
so
ready?
funny. I mean, some people have it with eggs, where they like eggs in stuff, but not eggs themselves. I think my brother is a bit like that. I don't think he despises eggs, but he doesn't.
By the way,
enjoy them
Nikki
so much.
also hates tomatoes, so this entire thing will be thrown out after this.
How about you just give it to a friend or something?
I don't have friends. All right, here we go.
Oh,
Last one.
Give them to your cats.
Holy. No. Oh my God. Dude, I can't even finish this.
It's not that big. You can get it down in one go. See, the alpha play would have been to just swallow it whole.
That's
I
too
guess
big.
they were
Maybe
they
you
were
can deep throw
semi-big
better
cherry
than me,
tomatoes, so
Sindren.
I guess you couldn't do that. Probably it's an experience thing. Yay! That was super enjoyable. We should do that again.
No, not to,
How about How about
the
this?
aftertaste is so. How can people do? There's no way. There's no way I'm
Every
this
episode-
insane.
Every episode, you need to eat a tomato at the end.
No, fuck that.
Dude, this is content, man. I love this. This is my favorite part of the day so far, of my whole day, of the
just
whole
woke up,
2.5 hours.
Sindren, have you watched In Bruges yet?
No, not yet. But maybe I have next week. Maybe.
I guess we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, thanks for watching We Say Things, episode 19. Oh, before I go, actually, maybe a lot of people won't listen to this, but if you guys have hookups to any sponsors that might be interested in sponsoring the podcast, please let us know. You can go on my website, sunsfan.gg, and you can find my email through there. We would appreciate it. Of course, we don't do this for money, but it helps it continue. Because I'm personally really happy. Okay, go ahead, Sindren, please.
I was just going to say, if you have a sponsor that's interested, they could pay for a dedicated Tomato of the Day segment.
No,
with SUNSfan.
no. That's not happening.
You could be the tomato
Veto.
sponsor.
Veto.
That is, that's value. You say
That
veto
is-
right now, but I know everything has a price, even with you. So
That's true. If they want to pay me a shit ton of money to eat tomatoes and hate them, I don't know how that's good advertising for them. But anyway, I'm personally really happy with this podcast. Like our numbers, I know people aren't supposed to talk about the numbers. They're really good, guys. So thank you guys for watching and listening. We really appreciate it. We need sponsors though. Please email us if you guys know anybody that would be interested. But yeah, until next time, guys, SUNSfan and Synderen signing out. Have a good one. We say things that don't mean anything, but thanks for listening. Yeah.